Meghan came along into the scene, I just thought, this is fascinating. How is this going to play out? To tell the truth, I spoke to very few friends of Meghan.
DNA claims have sparked a major royal controversy, and the reaction has been impossible to ignore. A fresh round of DNA-related claims has reportedly set off a strong response from Prince Harry, placing Tom Bower and Lady Colin Campbell right at the center of a story that is now reaching far beyond private conversations. What once seemed like quiet rumors has suddenly become a headline-grabbing dispute that has people paying close attention. What started as low-key speculation has quickly grown into a deeply personal and tense situation. People close to the story claim questions are now being asked about what was actually said, who made the claims first, and why the response has been so swift and emotional. As more people weigh in, the debate continues to grow, leaving many wondering what pushed this issue into the spotlight right now. So what exactly has been claimed, and why has it created such a powerful reaction? Join us as we dig into the growing controversy involving Prince Harry, Tom Bower, and Lady Colin Campbell, the two names driving much of this discussion. Before looking at the claims themselves, it's important to understand the background of the people making them, because their history, reputation, and public record all play a big role in how these statements are viewed and judged. Tom Bower didn't build his career by writing about the royal family from the beginning. Long before turning his attention to royal stories, he earned a reputation as one of Britain's best-known investigative biographers. Over the years, he examined the lives of powerful media leaders, politicians, and major business figures, many of whom had the influence and resources to challenge claims made about them. His approach has stayed remarkably consistent throughout his career. Rather than relying on rumors or personal opinions, Bower has focused on speaking directly with people who were involved in the events he was investigating. He has built his books by gathering first-hand accounts and using those interviews as the foundation of his reporting, instead of asking readers to accept unsupported assertions. That method has become a key part of how his work is recognized. Supporters of his work often point to this research style as one reason his books attract so much attention. Although, like many investigative biographies, his conclusions have also been debated by critics and those he writes about. That background helps explain why his 2026 book, Betrayal, drew significant public interest when it was released in March. Within just a few days, it climbed to the #1 spot on the Sunday Times bestseller list, putting it firmly in the spotlight. Reaching that level of commercial success usually takes more than a strong marketing campaign. It often reflects that a book has connected with readers who were already interested in the topic and wanted to see it explored in greater detail by a well-known author willing to publish under his own name. Whether people agree with Tom Bower's conclusions or not, the attention surrounding his work shows there is a significant audience for these discussions. Lady Colin Campbell has taken a different path, but she has also become a familiar voice in conversations about the royal family. Over many years, she has built a large following through television appearances, interviews, books, and online platforms that regularly attract millions of views. Unlike anonymous social media accounts, she comments publicly under her own name, where her opinions and claims can be questioned, debated, and scrutinized by audiences, journalists, and critics alike. Supporters see that public visibility as a sign of accountability, while critics continue to challenge some of her statements and interpretations. Even so, her willingness to present her views openly has made her one of the most recognizable figures in royal commentary. That public profile helps explain why her opinions often generate headlines and stand out from the constant stream of rumors and speculation that circulates across social media and online discussions. Taken together, Tom Bower's best-selling book and Lady Colin Campbell's years of public commentary have fueled a discussion that many people see as going beyond typical royal gossip. Supporters argue that the conversation raises questions about timelines, public records, and constitutional procedures, while critics dispute the conclusions being drawn. Those different viewpoints are a big reason the debate continues. instead of fading away. Much of the attention centers on what both have publicly said regarding Prince Harry and Meghan's children. Their comments have attracted widespread interest and strong reactions, making this one of the most closely watched royal stories in recent years. But what exactly have they claimed? And why has the response been so intense? Bower's book, Betrayal, covers nearly 500 pages and explores a broad range of topics related to Harry and Meghan's lives, public roles, and major decisions. According to the book, it includes accounts that Bower says are based on interviews and research, alongside descriptions of events that had either not been widely reported before or had previously circulated only in limited or incomplete form. As with other investigative biographies, many of the claims have also been challenged or disputed by those involved. Among the reported incidents is an alleged meeting at Kensington Palace that, according to the book, was intended to ease tensions within the family, but instead became increasingly heated. Bower writes that Meghan reportedly told Prince William to remove his finger from her face, while Harry allegedly remained silent during the exchange. Like other reported scenes in the book, this account has received significant public attention and has been the subject of ongoing discussion and differing interpretations. That passage quickly became one of the most talked about sections of the entire book. In the weeks after publication, royal commentators, journalists, and readers spent a great deal of time debating both its accuracy and its wider significance. Some viewed it as an important insight, while others questioned whether the account reflected events as they actually happened. The book also examines the financial structure of Archie, the charitable organization founded by Prince Harry and Meghan. According to Bower, it raises questions about how funds were managed and whether the organization's governance matched the expectations of donors and the public. Those points, like other claims in the book, have been the subject of discussion and differing opinions. Bower also discusses Meghan's relationship with Netflix, suggesting that the company's level of support for some of her projects may not have been as strong as many people believed from public announcements. He argues that this created questions about how the partnership was perceived. Throughout the book, Bower presents Meghan as someone who, in his view, makes decisions with careful planning and clear intention. Bower's book presents Meghan as someone who, in his interpretation, carefully considers the possible impact of every major decision. He suggests that relationships are often approached strategically and argues that changes in her personal and professional circles reflect deliberate choices rather than chance. Those are Bower's characterizations, and they have been widely discussed as well as strongly disputed. To support that broader picture, Bower points to examples involving Meghan's father, members of the royal family, and some people who have worked with her professionally, arguing that their accounts show similar patterns. Others, however, have challenged both those interpretations and the reliability of some of the claims. Even so, this portrayal became one of the book's most frequently debated themes and laid the groundwork for the additional questions Bower raises later about public decisions and personal narratives. When Betrayal was released, representatives for Harry and Meghan responded forcefully to several of its claims. Multiple allegations were rejected, and some criticisms surrounding the book were described as conspiracy theories or unfair speculation. Supporters of the couple also argued that certain critics were driven by bias rather than evidence, while others defended the book as a legitimate subject for public debate. The exchange only intensified interest, drawing even more attention to the arguments from both sides. Rather than ending the discussion, the responses to Betrayal appeared to bring even more attention to it. People who had not been following the story closely suddenly became curious about what the book actually claimed and why it had prompted such a strong public reaction. As new readers looked through the material, one topic in particular drew significant interest: the public discussion surrounding Archie's birth and how different details have been interpreted by commentators. Questions about Archie's birth have been discussed for years in some media outlets and among royal commentators. While many people accept the public account as presented, others have pointed to details they believe deserve closer examination. Those observations remain the subject of ongoing debate, and there is no official finding that the public account was inaccurate. Lady Colin Campbell was one of the early public figures to discuss these points in detail on her platforms, presenting her own interpretations and questions. Her comments have attracted both supporters and critics over the years, reflecting the wider divide in public opinion. One example often mentioned involves an interview Harry and Meghan gave following Archie's birth. During that conversation, Meghan said that her original plan had been to have a home birth rather than giving birth in a hospital. She presented that as part of explaining how events unfolded, and those remarks later became one of several details that commentators have debated and interpreted in different ways. Some commentators argued that Meghan's remarks about originally planning a home birth seemed difficult to reconcile with widespread reports that Archie was born at London's Portland Hospital, which had generally been treated as the accepted public account. Others, however, noted that planning for a home birth and ultimately giving birth in a hospital are not mutually exclusive, as birth plans can change unexpectedly. The different interpretations fueled debate, but they did not establish that either account was false. In Betrayal, Bauer also examines the public timeline surrounding Archie's birth and raises questions about how certain events were presented. Those questions reflect Bauer's interpretation of the available information and have been disputed by others. No official evidence has established that the publicly reported birth date or sequence of events was inaccurate, despite continued discussion among some royal commentators. Another moment that later attracted attention involved Harry's first public appearance with Archie. During that appearance, Harry made a remark about how quickly babies change, mentioning 2 weeks rather than 2 days, even though Archie had been publicly reported as only 2 days old at the time. Some commentators suggested it was a meaningful inconsistency, while others viewed it as nothing more than a simple slip of the tongue made during a busy and emotional period. That brief comment has continued to generate differing interpretations, but no consensus has emerged about its significance. The comment passed quickly at the time. Harry had just appeared before cameras with his newborn son and seemed visibly emotional. Under those circumstances, it's understandable that someone might misspeak or use the wrong time frame. Supporters of Harry and Meghan have long argued that this is the most likely explanation, and it remains a reasonable interpretation of that brief remark. Lady Colin Campbell, however, has argued that the comment should not be viewed on its own. In her view, it belongs within a broader pattern that she believes includes Meghan's comments about originally planning a home birth, questions raised by some commentators about the public timeline, and differences in how aspects of the story were described across various interviews and reports. These are Lady Colin Campbell's interpretations, and they have been challenged by others who reject the idea that the details point to anything significant. Taken individually, each point has been explained in different ways by different observers. Lady Colin Campbell has maintained that, when considered together, they deserve further discussion rather than being dismissed as simple coincidence. That perspective remains a matter of public debate rather than established fact. She has also argued that the public conversation surrounding Lilibet's birth involved additional questions related to official records, shifting the focus from personal recollections to the interpretation of publicly available documents, according to her analysis. The public account of Lilibet's birth appears straightforward at first glance. In June 2021, it was announced that she had been born at Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital as a healthy baby girl. For many people, that announcement settled the matter, and there was little reason to look beyond the official public statements. Lady Colin Campbell and Tom Bauer, however, have both argued that some surrounding details deserve closer examination. One anecdote that attracted particular attention involved reports, repeated by some royal commentators, that Meghan was reportedly hungry while in labor and stopped for food on the way to the hospital. The story spread widely online and became one of the most discussed details connected to the birth, even though it has remained a subject of debate. Viewed on its own, the account could be seen as an unusual but memorable personal story. Lady Colin Campbell questioned it based on her own interpretation of how labor is commonly experienced. At the same time, labor can vary greatly from one pregnancy to another, and individual experiences differ significantly. Because of that, commentators have reached different conclusions about whether the anecdote seems plausible. The discussion has continued largely as a debate over personal interpretations, rather than as a matter established by independent evidence. Lady Colin Campbell argued that, in her opinion, the reported account did not align with what she understood about active labor. Based on her interpretation, she suggested that either the labor timeline unfolded differently than many people might expect, or that the public description of events lacked important context. Others have pointed out, however, that labor experiences can vary widely from person to person, making it difficult to draw firm conclusions from a single anecdote alone. Another point she discussed was the timing of the public announcement following Lilibet's reported birth. The news was made public about 2 days later, and Lady Colin Campbell questioned whether that delay was unusual compared with previous royal birth announcements. While some commentators viewed the gap as noteworthy, others noted that Harry and Meghan were no longer working royals at the time and were not necessarily expected to follow the same communication practices as the royal household. Lady Colin Campbell publicly offered her own interpretation of what the delay might have meant, but those suggestions remain her opinion and have not been established as fact. No official evidence has confirmed the conclusions she proposed, and representatives for Harry and Meghan have not publicly addressed every point she has raised. The discussion then shifted to the birth certificate, which became another focus of public commentary and differing interpretations. Lady Colin Campbell also highlighted what she believed was a notable detail in a publicly discussed birth certificate, and her comments quickly spread across royal commentary channels. According to her interpretation, a code on the document appeared inconsistent with what she expected to see for a birth publicly reported as taking place in California. Based on that observation, she questioned whether the document required further explanation. It is important to note that official documents can contain administrative codes, processing information, or formatting details that are not always obvious to the public. As a result, commentators have reached different conclusions about the significance of the code Lady Colin Campbell discussed, and no official finding has established that the document was inaccurate or that the reported place of birth was incorrect. The issue generated widespread debate online, with supporters and critics offering competing interpretations. Lady Colin Campbell also noted that the physician publicly associated with Lilibet's birth later closed her medical practice during the same month. While some commentators viewed the timing as noteworthy, there is no public evidence establishing a connection between the closure of the practice and Lilibet's birth, and drawing such a link would be speculative. No public explanation was given regarding the doctor's decision to close her practice, and no statement connected that decision to the royal story. She simply stopped practicing and did not publicly discuss the matter further. Lady Colin Campbell described the timing as noteworthy, while Tom Bower mentioned it as one of several surrounding circumstances in his book. Both presented it as something they believed readers would notice, but neither point establishes a factual connection between the doctor's career decision and the birth itself. Each of these points has been interpreted in different ways. Some commentators believe they raise questions that deserve discussion, while others see them as unrelated events that have been combined into a broader narrative without sufficient evidence. That difference in interpretation is one reason the debate has continued for so long instead of reaching a clear conclusion. Beyond documents, timelines, and public records, another part of the discussion focuses on what millions of people watched during Meghan's pregnancies through television appearances, photographs, and public events. Those images became the subject of intense online scrutiny, with viewers offering very different opinions about what they believed they saw. Lady Colin Campbell used the word performed to describe Meghan's public presentation during her pregnancy with Archie. That characterization reflected Lady Colin Campbell's personal opinion, and it immediately sparked strong disagreement among supporters and critics alike. Supporters of Harry and Meghan strongly rejected that characterization, arguing that comments about a woman's body or pregnancy can be unfair, intrusive, and deeply personal. Critics, however, responded that they were discussing publicly available photographs and video footage that anyone could review and interpret for themselves. The disagreement quickly became one of the most divisive parts of the wider debate. The main claim raised by some commentators was that Meghan's baby bump appeared to look different across certain public appearances in ways they believed deserved discussion. A few events, including appearances involving a purple dress and a red coat, were repeatedly highlighted by online communities, with people comparing photographs and videos taken on different dates. Those comparisons became widely shared, although they reflected personal interpretations rather than established facts. At the same time, there are important alternative explanations that should be considered. Pregnancy can look very different from one person to another, and even for the same person, appearance can change, depending on clothing, posture, camera angle, lighting, movement, the stage of pregnancy, and countless other factors. Because of those variables, visual comparisons alone cannot reliably establish conclusions about a pregnancy. That is why the images continue to be interpreted in very different ways by different audiences, without any independent evidence resolving the debate. Many women remain active throughout pregnancy, and what may seem surprising to outside observers can still be entirely consistent with a healthy pregnancy. At the same time, drawing firm conclusions from selected photographs or short video clips is very different from presenting verifiable evidence. Images can invite speculation, but they cannot, on their own, establish what actually happened. Any balanced discussion of this topic has to recognize those limits. Lady Colin Campbell has said publicly that her views were not based only on what she believed she saw in photographs. She has stated that she spoke with medical professionals, nurses, and women who had experienced pregnancy before sharing her opinions. According to Lady Colin Campbell, those conversations shaped her interpretation of the public images. However, those reported consultations have not independently verified the broader conclusions she has suggested, and many medical experts caution against drawing conclusions about a person's pregnancy from public appearances alone. Lady Colin Campbell has presented her position as one she reached after careful consideration and has attached her own name and reputation to those opinions. One image that received particular attention involved Meghan's visit to an animal shelter while she was publicly reported to be in the later stages of pregnancy. She was photographed wearing high heels, crouching down to interact with dogs, and standing back up without visible assistance. Some commentators viewed the images as unusual, while others noted that mobility during pregnancy varies greatly between individuals, and that photographs alone cannot establish whether anything was out of the ordinary.